All right, today we're diving into a story about a project that didn't just hit a wall, it slammed into it. And it was left with a choice: fade away or completely re-engineer its own second chance. You can guess which path they took.
So just imagine for a second, you've built something, you've put it out there, and you think you're ready for the big time. But the people who hold the keys to the kingdom just keep saying, nope. That is exactly where this story begins. It's really about what you do when you just keep hearing no.
So here's how we're going to break down this pretty incredible comeback story. First, we'll look at the wall they hit. Then we'll see how they figured out what was really wrong, created this huge three-part plan to fix it, and even built the tech to make it happen. And finally, we'll look at their insane 90-day sprint that turned the whole thing around. Okay, let's rewind all the way to the beginning. This project started out as a pretty simple idea, almost like something you'd do in a lab. But, well, it very quickly ran into a massive, massive roadblock. I mean, the name says it all, right? It was literally called the Social Experiment, or TSE for short. And its goal wasn't to build some revolutionary new app. Nope, it was just to watch and see what would happen, how the market would react to things like token burns and airdrops. You can almost think of it like a little petri dish for crypto psychology.
But here's the thing. When TSE wanted to get serious and get listed, they hit a brick wall. Hard. We are talking more than 10 rejections from the two biggest names in the space, CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. Get this, they even got rejected after paying for the fast-track applications. This wasn't just a little hiccup. This was a giant flashing red light telling them something was fundamentally broken.
And the feedback they got? It was brutally honest. The platforms didn't dance around it. They pointed to two massive flaws: concerns about token concentration and market cap accuracy. And look, these aren't small issues. These criticisms cut right to the heart of whether a project is seen as legitimate or not. So, after getting shut down again and again, the team realized they couldn't just keep resubmitting and hoping for the best. They had to stop, take a hard look in the mirror, and figure out why this kept happening. And honestly, this is the moment the whole story turns around. And this chart, it lays out the problem perfectly. On the left, you've got the reality of the project. Too few people, holding all the tokens, a market value nobody could trust, and basically no real-world use. And on the right, that's what they needed to be: decentralized, accurately valued, and with a real tangible use case. That huge gap between those two columns, that's the reason they kept getting rejected. So what is this token concentration they kept getting flagged for? Well, put simply, it just means that the project's tokens weren't spread out. A very small number of wallets owned most of the supply. And for a listing platform, that is a gigantic red flag. It screams centralization and risk, pretty much the opposite of what you want in a decentralized project. Okay, so now that they knew what the problems were, they didn't just put a few band-aids on it. No, they developed this sweeping three-pillar strategy to completely rebuild the project from the inside out. The main goal? To build actual trust and legitimacy. And their plan was really thorough. It wasn't about one single fix. First up, they had to totally restructure the token's economics. Second, they had to build something people could actually use in the real world. And third, they needed to completely change how they communicated with their community. So their first move was to go right after those financial problems. This meant tearing down and rebuilding the token supply structure. They wanted to fix that concentration issue and just create a healthier market, all to prove that their project's value was real and accurate. Pillar 2 was where things got really interesting. This was a huge shift from just being an idea to actually being a tool. The project had to be more than an experiment. It needed a real, tangible application. Something you could point to and say, see, it does this. That's how you give a token a real purpose. And the final pillar, number 3, was all about transparency and actually talking to people. You can't build trust if you're hiding in a black box. So this meant creating one central public place for all their announcements, their dev updates, and community feedback. It was about making the whole process open for everyone to see. Now, a great plan is one thing, but you need an engine to actually make it move. And for TSE, that engine was a brand new piece of tech they called X402. This thing became the absolute heart of their comeback. To prove they were serious about utility, they didn't just write a white paper. They built an app, the TSE-X app. This was their physical proof. Its entire purpose was to be the verifiable evidence that this ecosystem now had a real-world use, focusing on payments and interacting with devices. And that app is powered by something called the X402 protocol. Think of that as the rules of the road, the underlying tech that actually makes it all possible. It's what allows for tiny, fast payments on the blockchain, and even cooler, lets you use a token to literally activate or verify a physical device. And this is where it gets really cool. Just look at what this tech could do. We're talking about tapping your phone to make a payment, using tokens to unlock a door or start a machine. It could let small businesses easily accept micropayments. You could even activate Internet of Things devices. This is what turns a boring old experiment into a really active, useful piece of technology. So they've got the strategy, they're building the tech, but how do you prove to the world that you're actually going to do it? Well, you put yourself on the clock with a public, time-bound plan. And that's exactly what the 90-day roadmap was all about. And this timeline just shows how serious they were. Look at this. Within 2 weeks, a new communication hub is live. By the end of month 1, the core of the app is done. By month 2, the token problems are fixed and they're testing hardware. And the big finish for month 3, go back to CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko with a completely different story. Every single one of these steps was a direct answer to their original rejections. So when you look at the whole story, what you're really seeing is a fundamental evolution. It's about a project that was forced to grow up and go from being a simple observation to a complex, working ecosystem. I mean, the difference here is just night and day. The old TSE was a passive project focused on market tricks. The new TSE is an active utility focused on being stable and legitimate. It went from having zero clear purpose to being powered by real-world tech that solves real problems. It's a total identity change. And that kind of leaves us with one big question. In a world that is so often driven by hype and, let's be honest, just speculation, can a project that failed get a second chance? Not with better marketing, but by actually buckling down and building real, verifiable value. The social experiment is still going, but now it's an experiment to answer that very question.